about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So this case is definitely causing a lot of us to kind of scratch our heads, and it's very, very tragic because somebody died. So a young actor, Michael Heslin, 35 years old, was in Las Vegas with his husband on a birthday trip. From what we're being told by Daily Mail, was having dinner at Javier's restaurant at the Aria Hotel. He suffers, from what we're told, a heart attack. He's only 35 years old. And the restaurant is now being sued for failing to perform CPR and stopping a woman who was performing CPR on the man, who ended up dying. And as a physician, I'm like, oh no, what happened? What went wrong? And so a wrongful death lawsuit has now been levied against the restaurant. And the attorney is saying Heslin's passing was an avoidable tragedy and was the result of failures by the staff to perform life-saving procedures. The lawsuit was filed last week. He was dining at the restaurant, abruptly collapsed. He, I believe he fell near his table. Those at the table called for help. They say the staff did not take action, despite Heslin, quote, exhibiting obvious signs of a medical emergency. Now, I don't know if the staff called 911, but it sounds like they were expecting the staff to start performing CPR. A nearby customer started performing CPR, but according to the lawsuit, an employee prevented her from continuing the compressions on Michael. There was an AED allegedly at the restaurant that they could have used to defibrillate. And they say that it was never retrieved. And then while Heslin was, his friends were trying to videotape what was going on, they were forcibly removed, and staff asked that they delete the videos that were being taken. So the lawsuit alleges 5 counts of wrongful death, loss of consortium, negligence, negligent hiring, retention, training and supervision, and gross negligence, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. So allegedly, if the staff didn't help him and they prevented others from helping him, this is where there's grounds for the lawsuit. Now the lawsuit, I guess, is seeking $30,000, funeral expenses, punitive damages, saying that his death was a direct and proximate result of the defendant's acts and omission. So one question that people are having is, if you're a restaurant owner or if you're a waiter or waitress, a food server, will you get sued for not performing CPR if you don't know CPR? The answer is you could get sued for anything, but there is no law requiring non-medical personnel to perform medical interventions. And it stinks because I'm wondering if what happened is they feared that because there were no medical personnel, they could get sued for trying to perform medical treatments and medical procedures. But when a customer that knows CPR is trying to help, usually the Good Samaritan laws will protect you. So you would let them help. Now, again, there's always two sides to every story. Was it that they were performing CPR, but the ambulance and the paramedics were coming? And so the paramedics were coming and they said, look, let us at the patient. And she might not have heard. So they said, ma'am, The paramedics are here. You could remove, was it something that simple, or was it, well, she was working on the patient, trying to resuscitate him, and then they told her to stop, and they just left him lying there for minutes to however long, until the paramedics came. Now, usually in a hotel such as Aria, you have first responders, you have security. I am shocked if there wasn't somebody on site, pretty quickly. But this does raise a lot of questions as to, what happened here. I mean, first you have a 35-year-old having a heart attack. Oh my gosh, and died. That's heartbreaking. Unfortunately, we're seeing younger and younger people now have heart disease. But so we don't know what caused, did he have an arrhythmia? Was it a medicine he was taking? Was it, a genetic disorder? Or, did he have arteriosclerosis? He looked like he was in good shape. So one is we have a young person that having a heart attack. Number two is it looks like there's many individuals that are not CPR trained. That's a shock. As I've said, I think schools should train all kids, and everybody should get their CPR the certification recertified every year, and ensure that they are up to date and able to perform first aid CPR. I think that's crucial for anybody to do. But it shows that there's a gross uneducation in that among adults in American society, which is really, really sad, because there's a lot we could do in terms of saving lives. But then also it shows that there's a lot of confusion about the laws. We don't want somebody that doesn't know what the hell they're doing to start pounding on somebody's chest. We want to make sure they're maintaining an airway, checking to see if CPR is the right thing to administer, making sure that you are getting oxygen to the brain through the compressions, and doing the process correctly. But if nobody knows how to do it, you call 911, you get 911 you get paramedics, and you get staff there. So I think we're going to get more details, but it's sad that that this happened. It's an absolute tragedy. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So it's interesting. The Jewish New Year is starting. And so I love how my friends will kind of send me fireworks and picture, emojis or gifs of or gifts of champagne bottles and all that, and they think we're going to tear it up. And the high holy days and the Jewish New Year is not a day where we get drunk and party it up, like it's 1999. It's the start of the Jewish New Year and the start of the 10 days of penitence and atonement and reflecting and making up with your enemies and looking at your past discretion, past sins and how to be a better person. And then it culminates with the Day of Atonement on Yom Kippur, where we fast for 24 hours. I mean, for me, that just barely gets me through my sins, past the second grade. I mean, I'd have to fast for years to even make a dent. And it's not a fun time. It's serious, and it takes a lot of reflection, but I think it's very healing, and it's very important, no matter what your religion is or what your spirituality is, to stop and go, look, what have I done? What could I do better? How could I be a better person on this earth? How can I be better to other people? And, for me, thanking God, for all that he's done. Unfortunately, this new year is still in the wake of there being hostages held by Hamas, in the wake of skyrocketing anti-Semitism, and just such a divide and such chaos that we're starting to see. We've been seeing this for a while. What Europe saw during the rise of Hitler. And we shouldn't be. This is 2025. Okay, we all should recognize that what Hitler did and what other countries have done to their people, depending on their faith, their color, whatever, is wrong. We don't tolerate that anymore. As a globe, we stand up against tyranny. We stand up against racism, anti-Semitism. We stand up against that. And I'm just seeing blatant anti-Semitism. I mean, we're seeing it on college campuses. We're seeing it on graffiti. We're seeing it in people's attitudes. We're seeing it, and I'm shocked that we don't have more people speak out. Now, people ask, Daliah, why now? Why did it get so bad? Well, I'm answering that question too, because October 7th, 2023, Israel was attacked by Hamas. Innocent people, babies, women, children, killed, murdered, taken as hostage. And rather than the whole world coming together saying, no, that doesn't happen, you bring those people back, UN, everybody was like, well, it's a bad thing, but Israel will handle it. So Israel tries to get them back. And now there's there's continued war between Israel and Hamas. We have hostages still there. We have destruction now on all sides. And it's people decide to take one side versus the other. And now it's gotten to we need to, be on the side of it's taken a turn that it should have never done. And I think it wasn't necessarily the fact that hostages were taken in the Hamas massacre. I think there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and people didn't feel like they could say anything until now. They're like, oh, great, we could be anti-Israel. We could get away with it now. And the taking advantage of this situation is sickening. It's disgusting, but it's very telling. I grew up in a family who, the grandparents were Holocaust survivors. And I actually found out how two of my relatives got out of Dachau. Dachau was one of the earliest concentration camps in Germany. And it was their daughter who had fled to England who was able to get her family all visas to England. This was during the mid to late 30s, before those in Dachau couldn't leave. And I don't know how, it was a miracle, but because the rest of my family who went to concentration camps all died, and extermination camps. But this, my cousin's grandparents were able to survive, and family was able to survive. And I'm the product of a very small family that was able to live through that. And so growing up, I'm like, well, that's never going to happen again. There's no way the world would ever let this happen again. I'm surprised people look the other way, but the excuse was they didn't look the other way. They didn't know. And I'm like, really? Because I'm hearing they did see the railroads. They did know about the camps. They could, they had aerial views, as they flew over but the excuse that everybody said at the time was, well, nobody knew. Okay. Well, now we know Ukrainians are being murdered. We know, there are people of in all sorts of conflicts around the globe that are being hurt, but nobody's coming to their aid. The reason why the UN was made is so the Holocaust and Nazism and fascism, cannot do what it did to Christians and Catholics and LGBTQ and gypsies and all the people they decided to kill. That would never happen again. But it's still happening. And it's frightening to think, I'm in Israel and it's a different country, knowing that they could get attacked and then people blame them for getting attacked. It's sad and it's frightening. And so, as Jews come into this new year to reflect, and they're noticing that they're a lot more alone than the past. And when I look at Catholics and I look at Christians and I look at Muslims and I look at Jews just trying to do the best they can on this earth and worship their faith, and to think that any of us could be victims and could be targeted because of how we deal with our own spirituality, I think it should call for all of us to unite and say, no, this doesn't happen. If somebody wants to be an atheist, they could be an atheist. If somebody wants to be a Protestant, they could be a Protestant. If somebody wants to be Jewish, Muslim, we have these rights, but that's not what we're seeing. We are just seeing hatred and people spewing. Everybody wants to hate somebody. So if they can't hate a Democrat or can't hate a Republican, or they can't hate a woman, or they can't hate somebody who's LGBTQ, or they have then they'll hate a Jew, or they'll hate we're not going to be able to cure hate, because hate is a part of our human makeup. But I think what we can cure is society's attitude towards it. During the high holy days, you're not supposed to be taking tests. You're not supposed to go to work. You're not supposed to go to school, because you're supposed to be in temple praying. And I'm hearing that there's a lot of universities saying, I don't care, the test, that you have an exam tomorrow. Sorry. That's your problem. And really, no religious exemption, no. I mean, come on. We should be able to do what we need to do. And you see people tested. My gosh, I can't believe I forget. Who was the baseball player where there was a game on Yom Kippur and he said, I can't do it. Gosh, I can't believe I can't remember. Oh my gosh, it's just the name. We should be able to stand proud of who we are and not fear that somebody's going to attack us or behead us or rape us or kill us or want to destroy Israel. When you're in Israel, I went up to Tiberias, the Sea of Galilee, and and then the Jordan River Valley, and you saw all these groups, and you saw it was great because you're kind of speaking Hebrew, and you're not really running into Americans, and then you're seeing the Americans on these religious tours, and it was so nice to see them. And they were in Engedi, and I got to see them, while they went through their tour path, and you saw the appreciation everybody had for each other and for the biblical and the historical beauty that Israel holds, where Jesus walked, where Abraham walked, and I love the fact that we have people out there that want to protect Israel and want to protect each other, but the rest of the world isn't on board, and we really need that. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret.
Powered by science.
Back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So one of the most, I guess, vocal states as it pertained to COVID masks was California. And they were one of the first and one of the most adamant on people using face coverings. And I was like, really? Especially since, look, at least hand out the N95 masks, protect people better. Don't use fake science, use real science so people understand that they might not be completely protected by what they're wearing. But California was all about the masks. Well, now, Newsom has signed a law saying no masks as it pertains to law enforcement. Well, boy, did they do an about face when it comes to facial coverings. And California has now become the first state to ban most law enforcement officers, including federal immigration agents, from covering their faces when conducting official business. What if they're worried about having COVID? What if they have COVID? They can't wear a face mask? Now, I understand they're not, banning it because of COVID. They're banning it because of, they want to scare bully individuals and coerce them to not do their job because they're going to have to reveal their identities to cartel members who could come back and find retribution. But what if you have an immigration officer that has COVID? I thought California wants you to wear a mask if you have COVID. So I'm a little kind of shocked and kind of perplexed by the hypocrisy here. But Governor Newsom is doing this as a result of the immigration raids. I don't want to call them necessarily immigration raids, but the ICE, shall we say, operations where they have been finding cartel and MS-13 members and individuals, criminals who have been here illegally, and federal agents have been wearing masks because people are videotaping, they're threatening them, and Newsom decided to unmask him. And he signed a bill flanked by state lawmakers, education leaders, and immigrant community members saying we celebrate that diversity of 27% of their residents foreign born. It's what makes California great. It's what makes America great, and it is under assault. Now, the individuals who are trying to remove those here illegally, those who have criminal past, those who are gang members, are putting their lives at risk and their families at risk. They're being outed, they're being videotaped in an attempt to thwart them from wanting to do their job. Obscuring their identities protects them. Now, my father was foreign born. Their family was able to come to America 20 years after they wanted to, after the Holocaust, but they were able to come to America, learn the language, take the citizenship classes, become citizens. So California being home, and that's where they went, to many people who are foreign born, yes, we're very grateful that America, has an immigration process, but a legal immigration process. Those coming here illegally hurt those who are foreign born who did the process correctly. And this is one of the reasons why Trump got reelected, because millions of Americans who came here legally, now they did it the right way, want to make sure that, you have the legal immigration and then you have the not legal, which is illegal immigration. What's the point of having a legal immigration process if people are cutting the lines? And people are, sneaking in and setting up, fentanyl, drug rings and sex trafficking and other illicit behaviors. So this kind of concerns me that what they're trying to do, if you don't want your criminals deported, there are other ways to do it. But instead, they're going after the agents who are doing the job that they're supposed to do as it pertains to legality. And I've never seen such, fights against, trying to follow the law and trying to enforce the law. Look at, I think a child was raped and murdered by somebody who was, I think, released. Why aren't we holding individuals that why aren't we deporting if they were here illegally and committing crimes, but why aren't they in jail if they're committing crimes? Why are they out and then able to commit more crimes? It just doesn't make sense, and the American public does not want to feel unsafe. They don't want MS-13 members. They don't want cartel members here. So what is Gavin Newsom doing? He wants to scare ICE agents and other agents and law enforcement from doing their job. Just doesn't make sense. So obviously DHS officials are criticizing the law. From what we understand, they're still going to protect their workers. Tricia McLaughlin, Homeland Security Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, said this is despicable and a flagrant attempt to endanger officers. She said, while our federal law enforcement officers are being assaulted by rioters and having rocks and Molotov cocktails thrown at them, a sanctuary politician is trying to outlaw officers wearing masks to protect themselves from being doxxed and targeted by known and suspected terrorist sympathizers. We're in a very dangerous time. Charlie Kirk being assassinated, and I'm sure, the FBI is going to uncover a much larger ring and a much larger plan that sadly was devised to attack political opponents. I'm just astounded that something like that, people would take it to that extreme, but they are. And so, we're looking at, individuals who came across the border, many of them, wanting to find refuge, many of them wanting to, be wolves in sheep's clothing, pretend that they were here for refuge, but, having criminal past or criminal intentions, just to keep them so they're an extra vote is not putting America's safety first. And it's not putting the immigration. We have one of the best immigration processes. Canada is even stricter than we are. If you lie or you come across illegally, you get deported. But in America, it's a sin to deport. Really? You can't get away with this in Japan. You can't get away with this in other countries. And so trying to expose individuals to put them at risk so they could be killed, that's not very governly. And if any of our officers do get attacked or killed, that blood would be on Newsom's hands. He should know better. But it's all politics. He thinks this move is going to help him become president. So, the immigration operations, maybe not very popular in California, but it's something that needs to be done safely. We need to ensure not only our officers are safe, but other immigrants who came here safely and citizens here, feel like they are not next to a drug ring or next to MS, like we saw with that apartment complex in Colorado, MS3 gang members. This is common sense, and it kills me to see what Governor Newsom's doing. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
The Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So living to 100 is a lot more of a reality these days. In fact, they say that there is somebody on this earth now, could be a child, who will be living to 150, where we will have that ability by the time that person, I guess, reaches 150. So maybe 100 some years from now, or I don't think they're 50 years old right now. expecting them to be younger, but all I know is being middle-aged, I could barely see myself make it to the 80s and 90s. But I got to tell you, it is a goal of mine to age well. So I guess there's this book called the Super Aging Workbook. And longevity experts David Kravitz and Larry Wolf, who are co-founders of this newsletter, superagingnews.com, published the Super Aging Workbook. And this follows a book they wrote, Super Aging, Getting Older Without Getting Old. And they have the 7 A's of super aging. And this is being reported by Fox News. And I usually don't talk about other people's books, but there's some interesting things they say here. So these are their 7 A's to super aging. One is you want to live longer, you have to have a positive attitude. They say it's good to have a good attitude. It's kind of a generic belief, but they've researched it down to the cellular level, and it actually does affect your health and longevity. Now, they're not wrong. When you have a negative attitude and you're negative and you're grumpy, that increases your cortisol, increases your inflammation. It can cause more arteriosclerosis, more brain aging. So whenever you have a negative attitude, try to switch that around. Because, boy, you know, I was telling my friends how this trip I took with my mom aged me about 15 years. 15. And part of it was I was tired. I was grumpy. And I had some negative attitudes on traveling with my mom. And it aged me. If I would have just had a more positive attitude, I might have actually been able to save some years off my life. So get that positive attitude. Their second A is awareness. They say there's constantly new research emerging on how to live a longer life. So awareness is the key to longevity. Like, you know, sitting less. So when these studies come out saying, well, you need to sit less, or you need to drink more water, or you need to have a balanced diet, or you need to do core training, or you need to have a ped, or you need to get your hearing checked. Be aware of that, because that might allow you to make lifestyle changes. So I know a lot of these sound like, well, duh, it makes sense. But it reminds us, yeah, you need to have a good attitude, and you need to be more aware. Activity. Activity is huge. When I look at these 90-year-olds and 100-year-olds, they're luckily they're able, many of them, to move and be active and go on their walk. Or, you know, the less mobile you are, the faster you could deteriorate. So trying to exercise, and even if you can't, let's say, walk, move your arms, get out there, use, do occupational therapy, physical therapy, but keep moving, do breathing, balance, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Achievement is a biggie. I need goals. I need to know that I'm doing something. And unfortunately, after a lot of us retire, we do things for leisure, which is still very important, but we might not be as goal, or our goals might be, oh, I'm going to binge this show on Netflix, or I'm going to, make goals, whether it's for your grandkids, whether it's for your hobbies, whether it's learning how to cook, learning a new language, traveling somewhere. But achieving something and having a goal and a purpose is huge. Attachment, having relationships, people in your life, family, friends, it does keep you young. You know, the people who live alone or have alienated family members, they don't do as well. You need to be around family. You need to feel loved. It's huge. And I've been very fortunate to see patients of all ages. And the ones who live longer are the ones where they're always around family. And there's always something going on. And they have a role, and an important role. You know, I have a family friend who's in her 90s. And she sometimes feels like the family doesn't need her anymore. And I go, you don't understand. They might not say, I need you, but your being there, there's so, I mean, what the foundation you made with the family, and then you being there and always being supportive, and all, and them telling you about, what they've done, and you might not realize, but there's a lot of subtle signs that they may give you. And so I like to teach patients some of those subtle signs. Now, people think that, oh, I'm not needed anymore. Like even my kids are adults. I'm like, oh, they don't need their mama. They do. But it might not be the way they were little kids, like, Mommy, I need you, hold me. It might not be like that anymore. But it might be, oh, yeah, this is what I did today. This is what they might be bouncing things up. They might be asking for advice. Or they just might need to know that they have somebody in their corner. Autonomy. Maintaining autonomy, they say, can help your physical, financial independence. If you're going to live longer, obviously you got to be able to finance it. You need to know how to manage your money. Sadly, I've had family members that have not managed their money, and then they rely on other family members who end up going broke as well. Figuring out, planning ahead does help. And people who super age that have that little bit of autonomy does help. They say avoidance. It's another A word they're using. But you have to avoid scammers. You have to avoid predators. A lot of obstacles as we age. Avoiding tripping. Avoiding negative people in your life. These are things that they include as well. So that was the 7A. And I know sometimes, these things are a little, they kind of trying to be kind of catchy and stuff. But being a super ager, I don't think is going to be the term later, because I think a lot of us are going to be living. Look at Jimmy Carter living till 100. And he had melanoma, metastatic melanoma. You see Clint Eastwood in his 90s. There's men. And see, to me, seeing the men live longer, we know that women tend to live longer than men. And men's life expectancy was in the 60s and 70s, early 70s for years. We're starting to see that change. Now, the life expectancy, the number, and I've told you guys before, the number may not show that the average man is going to live till 80. It'll still show in their 70s, because when you have younger individuals die of fentanyl overdose or COVID or accidents or suicide, that skews the number down. The reason why life expectancy was so low, in the 40s and 50s and 60s, was because you had a lot of childhood deaths before vaccines, and you had war, and you had so when they averaged the age of death of individuals, if you had a lot more younger people dying, then your average age would be down into their 40s. But you had people living well into their 60s and 70s and 80s. Even in the olden days, it's just the average got skewed. Well, if we do a much better job now of protecting childhood deaths and protecting childhood diseases, and doing a better job hopefully soon on suicide, you're going to see that number go up. But I do see men live longer. In my family, the average man doesn't live past 62, 63. It's a shame. But I'm hoping that changes with the next generation. Just all the men in my family are very stubborn about going to the doctor, which has to change. But there's hope, people. There is hope. 1-877-DOC-Daliah. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.